Okay, cool. Cool, baby. You're so cool, baby. Baby. Hey, baby.
Hey, come here, baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, mommy.
Baby, come here, baby.
Hey, mommy.
Hey, papi, mommy, papi, papi, mommy.
Mommy, papi, mommy. I have two parents. Mommy, papi. Hello and welcome to ScapeChatz. This is episode 32. I'm Alan, and I'm here with my special knife under the leaf-ink, Magellan. Magellan, I don't ask you enough on this show, how are things in your life living on this weird spaceship that we call life? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just dandy and fine.
That's wonderful. I'm good. I'm glad to hear it.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a crisp, early August day, and I'm relaxed and I'm ready to talk about Farscape. I'm in the mood. This week, we watched Season 3, Episodes 18 and 19, Fractures and I-Yensch, You-Yensch. Fractures was written by showrunner Rockne S. O'Bannon.
Whoa!
Directed by Tony Tills. Whoa! And it aired August... Callback. Whoa! And it aired August 24th, 2001 in the United States. I didn't even notice that this was a Rockne episode until we started looking at the info for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun one for sure. But it's also, so much heart. By the end of it, I was, in tears at the last couple of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really, really important episode because it's the one where Team Moya and Team Talon become Team Farscape again. It's getting there took a while. And I feel like this episode's plot got really muddy by the end. I was just kind of, confused by all of the moving parts because they have, maybe the most... new characters added, one-off this episode characters added ever.
Yeah.
Because there's a new Nabari, and there's a Scaran, and there's a Peacekeeper, and there's also a Hynerian, which is weird. We get to see our first female Hynerian on the show, and there's betrayal and back and forth, and there's also this John and Aaron thing. It's a very busy episode. But I'm curious what you thought of it.
I really liked it. It was a very watchable and entertaining episode. I think I agree that the plot kind of I don't know, there was just a little bit too much going on, and the stuff that was going on was kind of arbitrary and ultimately inconsequential, but a lot of great character stuff, and in general just a nice kind of breathing room episode. A very comfortable re-entry into a status quo, kind of a pre-split status quo. For
sure. And it's nice to see them getting back to that and addressing the fact that the other John is dead, and how we're going to start having to deal with this John having to form a new sort of relationship with Aaron and how they handle that. Very mature, very good handling of that relationship. But I feel like the rest of the plot, the whole everybody has a partner that's to come onto the ship that they want to defend and believe is a good person, but maybe all of them are betraying us. That whole thing kind of got a little confusing. So to clear things up, I think it's best that we start by reading the plot summary from the Farscape Illustrated Companion.
Yeah.
Expecting the arrival of Talon, the crew of Moya are surprised when the docked transport pod reveals its occupants to be a Scaran, a female Hynerian, a Nabari, and a barely conscious Peacekeeper tech, whom they welcome aboard cautiously. They were the subjects of Peacekeeper weaponry experiments, and their other comrade, a Boolite, has been smashed into pieces, although it is still alive. When the crew of Talon does arrive shortly afterwards, excitement runs high amongst the Moya crew. Crichton races to be excited with Aaron, but is surprised and confused by her bare acknowledgement of him, until Crace explains the events on Dambada. He also hands Crichton Stark's mask, which contains a message for Crichton from his other self. But before he can hear it, Pilot interrupts to announce that somebody aboard Moya just broadcast a distress call to the Peacekeepers.
Yeah, so that cleared up something I was confused about that I was going to ask about, which is if the Stark message and the message from the other John were the same thing.
Yeah, we really briefly touched on this last week, but basically Stark, when he left the team, left his mask behind and said, this is really important, and whoever this belongs to is going to find it when they need to. Mm-hmm. Just believing in fate, that whole sort of thing. And it turned out that, it had a hologram of Talon's John Crichton before he died, talking to Moya's John Crichton, being like, hey, here's the situation. And just a personal message for you that they do at the end, which I want to get to, but
yeah.
This episode starts with John. John is shirtless, and he's talking to Dargo about some stuff, like fixing something. And I'm like, well, okay, the writers of Farscape do need to pay me when they take my scripts. Like, that's not, you don't just get to use my plot lines. That's not legal. It's not fair. And they're talking about, like, which one, green or black? Like, they're picking out clothes together. It's so cute. And I'm like, you guys know. They totally realized how much we want Dargo and John to bone. It's no longer subtextual.
Yeah. And the line from Dargo is so perfect. It's, the black, of course. Far be it from me to say, but I've always thought the color of that green shirt doesn't suit the shape of your body.
Exactly.
It's like, whoa, all right. Let's do it.
He's thought about it. He's clearly considered this. And then we get introduced to the characters. There is what's the name of the Scarran? Because the Scarran is awesome.
Rygel, I think.
Rygel, that's correct, yeah. He doesn't get a ton of lines, but I really liked his design. He kind of looks like a walking dinosaur.
Yeah.
More so than the other.
Fuck dinosaur.
Oh yeah. He's got some nipple clamps. He's got some sexy stuff going on.
Yeah.
He's got the kissy lips. It's very important. I believe that's Thomas Holsgrove again, talking about the guy who does most of the Scarran characters, and the Diagnosin, and the Sheyang. He's like every cool alien on the show, actually.
Every big thing.
Yeah, he was the bartender in that one in Sons and Lovers. Yeah, he's all over the place. He's great. And then we get the Peacekeeper, who's just this weird, sad boy who sits in a jail cell, and he's like, I'm not going to do anything bad. And then Aaron's like, really? And he's like, no.
Yeah, he was like Tom Sawyer. He's just like this mischievous little black-haired boy.
He's like, exactly. He's the Loki of this episode in a way.
Yeah.
And we get the female Hynerian, whose name is something else. She's great.
Or something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I will start looking for it while I say this. I think that for a while I was like, oh, that's just that's just Rygel with a... There I go again, getting Pilot and Rygel mixed up for some reason. Isn't that just Rygel with a, wig on and, eye makeup?
Yeah.
And then they put both puppets in the same shot, and I was like, oh, shit. I'm full of crap then, because those are two different puppets.
Mm-hmm. It made me wonder how much goes into making a Rygel puppet. How much of an undertaking was it to make another one?
Exactly. Because it's good. It's really good. It's well done.
Yeah.
And it's wow, that was a ton of effort. And I don't think there are many other Hynerians on the show, and that's probably why it because it's a complicated puppet, obviously. It's the same reason why all the pilots are the same puppet, because fuck making another pilot. But she's really cute, and she's really nice, and her and Rygel just have a ton of sex.
Oh, and they go to town.
I had heard this episode was really sad, and then the first thing you texted me was like, hey, do you want to watch an episode where Rygel has a lot of sex for the whole episode? And I'm like, yep. He's like, yeah, that's the one. That's what you're watching. I'm like, oh, I think her name is Orn. You're right. Orrhn. And then so there's also the Boolite, the Boolite is such a cool ass idea, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, that is. It's just like a goo man.
It's a goo man who can be separated and put back together as needed. So it leads to a lot of Krace and Jewel playing, which is a good Whedon test, by the way.
Great pairing. What a fun pairing.
Yeah, exactly. That moment where it's all of its pieces fall on their lap and they scream. Mm-hmm. There's good trivia about that shot. But that's a fun moment, and them playing Operation with it for the whole episode is great. Yeah. Because it gives the plot this really awesome, time constraint and agency of, we really need... we have the key to solving this whole mystery in our hands. It's all right in front of us. We just need to make it work. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of good, physical comedy where he's like, oh, this is clearly the head and this is the mouth. And she's like, is that the mouth? Does he breathe? Or, does he see out of his mouth or something? Mm-hmm. There's all that good stuff. And yeah, just the idea of if there's an alien here that exists as pieces that we have to put Lego blocks together to make it real and be able to talk. And they finally do get it to talk, but they don't put the brain in the right place, so it's just like drooling and not saying real words. Mm-hmm. Really, I thought that was super cool. Although I think this is the only Woolite that's going to get seen on the show, but it's just a really interesting idea. Similar to how, like, we were talking about the whole, like, Flintstones thing, where Farscape will, like, do something normal, but then do it with puppets. Mm-hmm. This felt like we could, if we just, like, in a world where cell phones existed, you could have just been like, oh, if we can just get signal, then we can call the police and get saved. And in the show, instead of that, it's like, no, we just need to put the alien back together.
Yeah.
Which is funny as hell to me.
Just like a weird way to do it.
Yeah. And then, finally, we have the character that I wanted to be my favorite, and then they kind of didn't do anything with them. Our first intersex character on Farscape.
Yeah.
Who was Hubero?
I guess, yeah. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The Nabari.
Yes. The Nabari, the androgen, the intersex character. They're dope. The thing is, so it's weird. I'm happy to see Farscape approaching this sort of like idea of, hey, in a sci-fi world like this, especially in a world like where Nabari society is so obsessed with genitals and sex and like monitoring and regulating how people procreate, it's really good and like important to flesh out that race's society by having there be a character who is intersex and who is like, hey, I don't fit into any box. Whoopsie.
Yeah.
They just kicked me. I was immediately an outcast from the day I was born, because damn. And like how she talks to Chiana, and that whole thing. Like they're going into stuff like gender and sex, that stuff that I'm just like, wow. Even Star Trek wasn't doing a lot of this stuff at the time. And like good on them. And just like to jump ahead a bit, if we're going to talk about Hubro for a bit, it really bummed me out that they killed her, because it's like an infamous trend in 90s and early 2000s television to like introduce a queer character or a gay character and then have like a really racy, like, oh, watch them kiss another girl, and then kill them the next episode. Mm-hmm. Buffy did it. Gilmore Girls probably did it. Like, and so many fucking shows did it that I can't even think of. And she dies for no reason, if you ask me. Like, she dies because of Crossfire, basically.
Right, yeah. There's not really much pomp to that death. Also, can I just... I maybe it's because I wasn't watching that closely, but I didn't realize this character was intersex until I read the summary. Because I think I was, like, looking away at the two moments when it was brought up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, like, not that that's a criticism of the show, but that's such a big idea, I think, that it feels weird that it's being relegated to this character in an episode full of like, here are some other characters for us to explore. They're just giving us a slew of alternate takes on these species in a way that's cool, because it's fleshing all of these species out, but it also feels kind of dismissive. Like, these are characters that, you know, they kind of exist, but we're going to lump them all together because they couldn't sustain an episode on their own, I guess. So it's like the nice Scaran, the common Hynerian, the intersex Nabari.
The shitty Peacekeeper. That's why I hated him the most, because he just didn't feel like he was fleshing out the Peacekeepers at all. Because like every Peacekeeper that we've seen on the show so far has at least been interesting, because it's like, oh, they're bad for a reason, or they're bad because of circumstances, or they're just good, like Aaron and Crace. Or actually, you know, Crace is kind of morally gray, but it's like, now you're just reminding me, hey, some of them are boring. Some of them are just bad assholes.
Some of them are just whiny.
So weird. That was the thing, because there's like, the scene where they show that she's intersex is really awkward, because it's her talking to Chiana, and she's like, oh, I was kicked out because I'm an androgen. And she's like, what? And then Hubert like lifts her pants and shows Chiana her genitals. And I'm like, why the fuck did you have to? You could just tell her that. You didn't have to show her. You didn't have to prove it.
Yeah.
That just felt really dicey. I'm just like, was that necessary?
Right.
Right. And it's a little bit played for comedy, because Chiana's like, whoa, 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 you know, like,
yeah,
that's weird. But, and then again, they don't really do anything with it, which is like, this episode is very crowded. And so it has a lot of interesting ideas like that I just kind of wish.
Yeah, I don't want to bury the fact that it's really cool of Farscape to try this. I just think it was kind of half-assed.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And because especially like a lot of the rest of the episode was like really interesting, and like the John and Aaron stuff, they've clearly sharpened down to a point. They're like, we know how to go cut right to the core with you. Like that scene early on where John and Aaron, like John is like the excited little boy, and his friends are coming back from summer camp, and he's like, "Oh my god, Rygel, like, hey, I didn't steal any of your stuff, buddy." And like, "Oh, Crace, you sassy asshole." And Crace is like, "Crichton, everything is bad." And you're like, "Oh, Crace." And then Aaron comes on, he's like, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" And she's like, she looks at him, she fucking walks right by him. I'm like, "Oh no, I wanted to." That was the part that was maybe the sad. That and the ending were the two saddest parts of this episode for me.
For sure.
Because you got to remember that this Crichton like they didn't have like a falling out moment. Him and Aaron, they just went their separate ways for a while, and he knows that she now has history with the other one. Right. So it's like, well, I had some history with you, but then you went on to have history with another version of me. Like we're just in an awkward space, and we don't know how to do this.
Right.
I'm dead in your mind.
Yeah, it's also so fascinating to look at the state of mind of like the entire crew of both ships, because all the Talon people are just sad as fuck. They just had the hardest time in the world. They're really depressed. One of their best friends died. And then everybody on Moya, things are just normal. And Dargo has that line where somebody's talking about, like, I think it might be here on the wiki. Yeah. Chiana says, "Not quite the reunion we were expecting. The other Crichton dead and Stark searching for Zuzan's spirit." And then Dargo says, "Well, with a single Crichton and Stark missing, perhaps it will restore some sanity to the ship." Like, he doesn't care because Crichton isn't dead for him. It's just like everything's easy now, because now he doesn't have to think about the fact that there are two.
Exactly. It's a completely different mindset that he's working with. That the Talon crew, because the Talon crew was smaller, they're just and also like more dealing with more sad stuff. They had to fall in love with each other and like learn each other's faults and their flaws and all the beauty of each other's like existences. And then the Team Moya is just like, "Oh, we've been dealing with some weird bugs, and Dargo threw his sword off the ship. Shit's weird over here." Like, yeah. And then when those two things come back together, it's like, what happens when those groups have to deal with, like having their ideologies put on trial, which is kind of what this episode is about. Because Chiana is defending Hubero because she's like, well, this person is like from my people, and I've been with her the whole time. Like a lot of their arguments when people are starting to point fingers are like, I was with this person the whole time. There's no way that they could be lying to me. Which is like, there's a name for that. I think I've mentioned before that I took a detective fiction class, but it's the type of thing where the mystery isn't like who did it, but how could someone have done it? It's like a locked room mystery or something. But basically, because everyone was with the character that they're defending, how could someone have sent out a call? Right. And my like biggest problem with Fractures is that I never understood the answer to that question. Because I love mystery stories. Yeah. But I just feel like the moment when everything went bad so quickly that I like lost track of what was going on. So would you be able to explain that to me? Because I had trouble with it.
Yeah. So I think the episode kind of leads us through suspecting a few different characters in ways that aren't necessarily believable. So first, I think we're supposed to think that the Peacekeeper guy got out somehow and did something.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on? The Scaran got shot, right? This is the inciting thing.
Yes.
But then
Chiana has a psychic vision that there's a gunshot. Okay. And everyone's like, there's no gunshot. And then later there's a gunshot and it's the Scaran getting shot.
Right. So Scaran got shot, which absolves him, because why would he shoot himself, I guess. But also Dargo was with him the whole time, because he and Dargo are great buddies now. They're both muscle boys. Yeah. They love each other. They give each other great muscle hugs and talk about their strength. So he's set. Hubero is with Chiana, and they're doing something. they're like doing whatever they're doing, some kind of.
They're talking about what it's like being a Navari, the outcast, basically.
Yeah. So they're having a cool like heart to heart moment.
Yeah.
Rygel and Orn are just fucking. They're just.
She calls him Rygel at some point, which is adorable but kind of gross.
I love that.
Rygel.
And then she said something about how Dominars can just have sex forever. Like they never need to stop having sex.
Hell yeah.
There's no refractory period for Dominars. And yeah, so that's what's going on. We kind of are supposed to suspect the Peacekeeper at first because he's whiny and evil. But
he's got the motive.
Yeah, but right, he's got the motive. But there's a DRD watching him, so it can't be him.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in this space where nobody's sure who's doing what. There's some camera angles and shots that are kind of, I think, they're kind of meant to make us suspect Aaron briefly.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
Because the Peacekeeper guy tries to make a deal with her, saying that all these prisoners are worth a lot of money. And there's a sense that Aaron just doesn't care about anything anymore.
Yeah.
So the episode purposefully keeps a lot of distance from Aaron as a character. Like I don't think there are any scenes that are focused on her. It always kind of feels like she's in the scene with somebody else. She's there in that scene with John, like passing tools, but she's very quiet.
Yeah.
So she's kind of a non-entity in this episode in a way where it's making it easier to suspect her, but also like, why would Aaron ever do that? Aaron would never do that.
I think it's really important, actually. I loved that scene where the Peacekeeper is talking to her and he's like, if you turn us in, like we're all high value prisoners or whatever. And like, you'll get so much respect in the Peacekeeper's army. And she's like, yeah. I wish I could find the line exactly, but she's like, yeah, what does respect actually mean? And how do I actually get back into good graces with the Peacekeepers? You're going to give me like $20 and be like, hey, good job, pat on the back. That wouldn't get me my old position back. Also, I don't want my old position back. Like, fuck everything that you guys value in the Peacekeeper army. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't need any of that. Your proposition is completely worthless to me.
Yeah.
It's just a good reminder that she's changed so much over the course of the show.
Right. Yeah, so that's great. So the DRD is watching him, detects no motion. For a second, we think, oh, maybe it could be Aaron. There's a moment there. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it's revealed that it was Orn who did it.
The Hynerian,
yes.
Yeah,
because there's some panic that happens at some point. The Boo Light is maybe starting to say who it is, and then I think that freaks her out, or she just sees an opportunity and seizes it, and takes Rygel hostage. Starts talking about how he's a very valuable prisoner, more valuable than she is, because she's a common soldier, and you were having sex with a soldier, haha. You wouldn't have had sex with me if you knew I was a soldier. That kind of class thing is coming in here very briefly.
Which I liked that.
Yeah. And the way that so here's, I don't know if you picked up on this or not, but this is the explanation that's given for why Rygel's alibi doesn't hold water, which is that he says that when Hynerians experience pleasure, they fall asleep.
Okay.
That's what happens. When a Hynerian has an orgasm, they fall asleep.
Oh, so she's trying to get him to fall asleep.
Yes. So he's like, but how did you ever have the time? We were like having sex and then we were sleeping. And then she's like, I didn't, like, you were all the one who had the pleasure. I think she said the pleasure was all yours or something like that.
Oh.
So
she wasn't orgasming.
Right.
So she was like all that.
She was faking orgasms so that he would fall asleep and then she could sneak around the ship.
She does say the pleasure was all yours, by the way. That's the exact line.
Yeah.
Good shit.
So that's how she is able to get away. And then it turns out she's in cahoots with the Peacekeeper guy.
Okay.
And that's that.
I get that. Because I know that she betrayed Rygel. That made sense. And that was really sad to me just because it's like, you know, Rygel has that incredible line later. He says, I will not be taken to task for having a trusting nature. Ooh, that was one of the fucking, like, he like lobs that line. He's like, I'm never the good guy. I got to be good once, and now you're trying to give me shit for it? Like, fuck right off. Because John's like, hey, Buckwheat, how you doing? Like, oh, you fucked up. And he says, yeah, I'll not be taken to task for having a trusting nature. It's like, oh, Rygel, you're good. I'm so sorry.
My boy.
My beautiful hungry boy. But because I also saw that the Peacekeeper got out and was like trying to shoot people, but he had the most garbage aim in the world. Whatever, plot convenience. Like you get a clear shot on everyone, but you're still gonna miss because it's a TV show.
Yeah.
And then what other like big notes do I have before that? There was Aaron and John were in cool Tron spacesuits, which were the Talon spacesuits, by the way.
Yeah.
I forget why they went into space though. Didn't they like? There was moments where they were, oh god, they were like, they threw the Hynerian into space or something? Some crazy shit.
Something like that. I don't remember how they disposed of her.
I feel like someone got thrown into space. And no, yeah, it was totally her, yeah. They were like, oh, we got rid of you, and then she was like holding on to Rygel, and then she let go for 1 second, or they made her let go, and then she fell out of the airlock, which is good. They haven't launched someone out of the airlock in a good while, and I was happy to see that. It's always funny. And then they like kill the Peacekeeper, I think. Excuse me. It's, yeah. They deal with things pretty quickly, which was nice, because it's like, oh, okay, even though the team is freshly gotten back together, they can still do work. That's really great.
Yeah.
Crichton, so we can talk about Sad Crichton now. There's a moment where he finds the other Winona, and he like picks up both, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, dual wield Winona. Oh my God, I want that really badly. Just like from a convenience perspective, but he has to be like, no, I need my Winona. I can't take his. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it, but like honor his wishes. The Farscape game is real and it exists in all of our hearts and minds, and we need to continue to acknowledge that it happened. There's Rygel. There's me talking about the Nabari a lot. Bad aim. Cool spacesuits. Oh, another really good line. I'm going to find the context of it, but Aaron was talking to... Yeah, they were talking about like shooting something. He goes, oh, is this cable going to hold? Like they were using a cable to hold on to something. Oh, and she says, yeah. Oh, it's iridium alloy. Of course it'll hold, just like the Budong. And he goes, Budong, what are you talking about? And you're like, oh.
That one like hurt me physically.
Exactly. You're just, oh, fuck. That's like, that was a great episode. And for us, it's easy to forget that was a completely different individual who had a different experience, that this John has no idea what the fuck a Budong is.
It's crazy.
Those are the lines that make this split worth it. Are when we're like acknowledging the time off and not just being like, oh, we had history, but acknowledging specifically what that history was, like how we survived the Budong, or like the time that they went and fought a gang on a planet, like all that stuff. It's cool. It like rewards the viewer for keeping in their head like, oh, that was something that happened on Talon, or that was something that happened on Moya. Like, again, just Farscape is very rewarding for careful watchers.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there was the lying nature line. And then finally, we get to the saddest scene of the episode, which is when John watches the hologram.
Oh, man.
Fucking brutal. Bless you.
That was a sadness sneeze.
Sad sneeze. Oh, yeah. Oren's last line was, Rygel! And then John goes, women. And she gets tossed out. Or is that... Yeah, that's like the last line. So this is the scene where John is watching the hologram, and the hologram says to him, it's all in my head, which means it's in yours too. Wormholes, A to Z. You've probably heard what we did with it. And that's just the beginning. You could fry a whole solar system. Furlough is still out there somewhere, which is cool to remind us about Furlough. Mm-hmm. But for right now, the Scarens are back to square one. Peacekeepers, they're your problem. And then Aaron is coming closer, and he says, look at me, talking to John. There's a lot of, like, not text in here. Now look at yourself, which is another good, like, fucked up scene. You know, don't let Scorpius crack this. Whatever it takes. Okay, I'm gonna piss you off now. Be smart. Don't push her. She takes time. Oh, one more thing. And then he raises his fist, and they do the rock, paper, scissors, and they, again, hit the same. They both do scissors, I think.
No.
And then
the hologram wins.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
They both throw scissors in a final game of rock, paper, scissors.
Where does it say that?
In the transcript. And I remember seeing that.
Oh, I thought for sure the hologram won.
Both of those are really strong ways to interpret that. I'm almost positive that they both hit the same thing. I thought that was supposed to be the thing, like, oh, we were still the same all along. They both threw scissors. Yeah, it says they both threw scissors, and I remember it, so who knows? People are going to correct us. Thank you for correcting us. And then the hologram laughs a little bit because he knows that they were going to tie, and then he says, good luck, John. And he goes, boof, and he disappears.
Man.
And that's the last time that our beautiful Talon John gets
what a cool, that's just so cool. I wish I had more elaborate thoughts than just calling it cool. But it's
powerful.
Yeah, what an amazing, powerful idea.
You know what it is about that scene visually that impressed me the most?
What's that?
It's this idea of distortion and how distance and time makes us different from who we used to be. Mm-hmm. Because like they still hit the same rock, paper, scissors thing, but it was clearly a very conscious decision to have the hologram John be like kind of fucked up and like not look right, because it's like it kind of looks like it's melting, kind of like its eyes are all jiggly, and it comes in and out because it's a faded hologram. Like, it's not perfect. It is no longer the same as John. Now he's looking at it from beyond the grave, and there's no way that they're ever going to see each other they're never going to look exactly the same anymore because one of them is dead.
Yeah.
So the choice to have the hologram look bad is like, wow, we are now even one significantly further degree away from being the same person, even though we have the same soul or whatever, however you think about that.
Right.
And Aaron watching it also was great because it was like a good solidification that she's looking at the same John in a way. She's like, oh, this person who I thought you're not my real boyfriend. You're not the real guy who I fell in love with. You're the other John. It's like, no, you're with the same John. You guys can still at least come to a happy medium together.
Right. That's true.
And I'm curious whether or not they're going to go straight to these two are in love again, or if it's going to be a sort of more complicated, like, you still are the person that I fell in love with, but you're not him. Like, if that's going to continue, or if they're just going to throw it up in the air and say, whatever, they're in love again, it's fine.
I mean, I think it's going to take some time, but they've got to get back there, you know?
Yeah. They've got to get back there because the show can't survive without a John and Aaron relationship, and also, like, how long can you be on this ship with the person who looks and acts exactly like your former lover before you realize, like, whatever, it's fine. I got no one else. I need this, you know?
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see them together by the end of the season, but...
Yeah. I think at least by middle of season 4 or like Peacekeeper Wars, it'll just be like, whatever, they're in love, they're buds, it's great. Overall, though, a really good episode. I had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, I want to talk about the pilot's den scene. So John is in Pilot's Den, and everybody is standing near Pilot, and he's basically, we don't see him present this, but what he's basically saying is, I gotta go to where Scorpius is.
Oh yeah,
right
where they're
now.
picking sides.
And you can come with me if you want, but like I'm totally going.
There's no stopping me. That scene is great because it's the classic like military action movie thing of like, you're with me or you're not with me. You don't have to be against me, but I'm going. And you, who's coming with me? Like the picking the dodgeball team kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And Pilot says, Moya and I are against this idea in totality. I'm sure Captain Crace is aware that Talon resists also. Gianna says, you don't know how far Scorpius is in his research. You don't know where he keeps it. You don't know anything. How are you going to stop him? And then Jewel says, I'll pass if you don't mind. And then she's, at this point, she's wearing an eye patch, which was so funny to me because a character getting an eye patch is always the, like, easy indicator that stuff has gotten grimdark. Like, everything's bad.
Shit's
Buffy did it. She pulled a Xander, and she's like, I have an eye patch now. But, like, Xander had a good reason to get an eye patch. Like, homie, lost something really important. An eye, if you will. And then Rygel's like, why are you wearing an eye patch? She's like, I got blue light in my eye. Why are you such a moron? And you're like, Jewel, you got goop in your eye and it hurts. Mm-hmm. Although, yeah, and then like in the next episode, she's like, I have to go to the medical planet to get the goo out of my eye. I'm like, Jewel, are you kidding me? Like, you're so... what a weird reason to have to need an eye patch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
And then John says, I don't see another option. Scorpius has the knowledge for my brain, and I'm not going to let him shaft the universe with it. And then the great, awesome line of the end of it, which is... Well, actually, this is the part where like everyone's starting to switch sides. Aaron goes over to John's side, and Gianna says, you're all going to die. And then he goes, you see that one, Pip, or are you just guessing? We choose our own path. Mm-hmm. This one is mine. I'm going to the command carrier. Yeah. I'm going to stop Scorpius.
Yeah.
Like, oh! I need that.
Yeah.
I need it.
This is like... It's like we're on some Lord of the Rings shit right now.
Totally.
Like we're about to ride off.
We're about to ride off into the sunset and just go out in a blaze. It's the end of Angel. It's all of those kind of like, holy shit. Totally. Like we're going to go fucking die. We're going to go kill someone and we're going to bring them down with us.
It is just like the end of Angel where it's like, we're going to kill the senior partners. Here we go.
Yeah. We're probably not going to make it out, but they're going to go down with us.
That's pretty fly.
I love it. I love it. And that's why I was disappointed that the next episode isn't that.
Yeah, right? It's so I'm
like,
so
oh, sweet,
not
fuck
that.
Yeah. But we'll talk about why that is. Because that's Fractures. Magellan, would you like to read us the background information?
I would totally like to do that.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody commented on this last time, because I haven't listened to last week's episode yet. But they, again, last point I just wanted to do on this episode is they again brought up the idea of like one of the Johns being a copy and people being occupied by that. Which, again, kind of vexed me. Because there's the...
Oh, because you don't like that they clearly established early on that they're the same, but now they're like, no, but they're maybe different.
Yeah, because I don't know. I understand psychologically the idea of it feeling like one of them is a copy. So I guess that's where it's coming from. Because Dargo's talking to John, and Dargo's like, yeah, you thought he was the copy, but now Aaron thinks you're the copy. And it's like, but no one's the copy. I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about it too kind of detached and intellectually. Mm-hmm. But why didn't they just say from the get-go, one of you was a copy? Because then we really could have been thinking about that, you know?
Yeah, that would have had completely different implications.
Yeah. And also, while we were talking, I rewatched the scene because I was convinced, the rock, paper, scissors, because I was really convinced that the hologram threw rock, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. He threw scissors. It's just in the shot, the way that it's framed and the fact that his fingers are see-through makes it look like it's just his fist.
Oh, yeah, it's shot a little unclearly.
But I like it way better if he throws rock.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh yeah, mate, we're different. We split enough that we're different people now.
Yeah. I think that's more powerful.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
But then it kind of, I guess, changes the implication for Aaron watching.
Right.
Because then it's like, oh,
exactly,
the cool, strong one really did die. Like the cool guy who could win rock, paper, scissors really is
dead. That game decided who she's going to love for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Anyway, background info. Here we go.
Yay.
Paul Goddard makes his final appearance of the season in this episode. Bye-bye. Go have fun at the Sydney Opera House.
Is he in season 4 at all?
Yeah, I think he's in Peacekeeper Wars.
I know, but is he in season 4?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Rock and roll.
When David Kemper saw the first dailies of Orne in her red feather boa, he joked that Carol Channing had taken a guest role on the show. Jonathan Hardy commented that Orne was a common little creature. She looked like Phyllis Diller to me. So we've got some weird undercurrents going on in those comments.
Yes. Yep.
Fiona Gentle's voice on set for Orne used a Cockney accent. Tony Tills decided that the character needed a voice that was more posh.
Was Fiona Gentle the voice of the Diagnosin? Am I crazy?
Yes, you're correct. Fiona Gentle's
awesome.
One of the puppeteers, so I think she does on-set voices a lot.
Gotcha.
When Crichton interrogates the Boolite, who at the moment is little more than a talking orifice, he remarks, "This is a little too naked lunch." This is a reference to the William S. Burroughs novel of that name and later film, which featured a talking orifice of similar nature.
A talking orifice of similar nature is my new band name.
Clear it up that I looked this up, and naked lunch includes, like, I think it's a man whose asshole can talk. I'm pretty sure. So it's not entirely similar.
It's more that there's a ton of like body horror stuff in Naked Lunch. I haven't read it. I know I've seen visuals of the movie though. Mm-hmm. Is it good? Have you consumed any of it?
I haven't read it. I own the book.
Let's do a book club.
Let's do it. Both Lonnie Tupu and Tammy McIntosh enjoyed the comedy scenes with the Boolite, though Tupu worried that his scream would seem out of character. It was a little bit out of character.
Yeah, it was clearly like, wait, we're having too much fun. We forgot that Craig's is supposed to be like a frumpy guy, and he's screaming like a high-pitched girly scream.
Yeah.
That's a quick line from that in the illustrated companion. Reconstructing the Boolite threw Jewel and Craig together, and Tammy McIntosh and Tupu had fun with the scene where they both scream. It was like performance art, McIntosh recalls. The camera rolled, we took a pause, looked at each other, Tupu adds, and looked back again, looked behind us, and then screamed at the same time. I felt quite jazzed by that because there was a chemistry there, Tails comments. I felt quite jazzed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Thomas Holsgrove enjoyed playing the role of a peaceful Scaran for once. I enjoyed seeing him play that role.
Yeah, there aren't enough. So, is he the first nice Scaran we've ever seen?
I think so. I kind of wanted that Scaran to just hang. To just be their buddy forever.
Yeah, I would totally. It would get complicated because of the whole, I don't know, they're like Scarans and Peacekeepers. Like, you wouldn't get along with Aaron, but then that's the point. Like, that's kind of fun.
Right. That's what the show kind of needs, is put a Scaran on the ship to humanize the Scarans and make it a little more complicated.
Yeah, I hope they humanize the Scarans before Peacekeeper Wars, because right now they're just like evil lizard Nazis.
Yeah. It's also the fact that Thomas Holsgrove is just around all the time. It's like, why not?
Why keep giving him different costumes? We could just give him a character and let him stay on the show.
Yeah. Anyway.
I don't know.
The cliffhanger at the end of the episode was deliberately heightened, as producers knew that some viewers would have to wait months between episodes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. Do you know when the next Okay, so this episode aired on... Hold on. August 24th, 2001 in the U.S. Do you want to know when the next episode aired, Magellan?
Hit me.
April 5th, 2002.
Fuck that.
There was almost a year between Fractures and I-Yensch, You-Yensch, which is exactly why the cliffhanger at the end of Fractures does not segue into the next one.
That's insane.
Yeah, imagine coming back to Farscape after almost a year, and you're like, all right, we're going to go attack the base, and then you get I-Yensch, You-Yensch, and you're like, what? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Which, granted, that episode owns like crazy, but it's like, that's not what I expected at all.
Oh my god. That is it's 8 months. Almost 8 months.
Because we talked about how it's weird, like season 2 went like 2 months later, and then we were in season 3, airing-wise.
Yeah.
But that's because the show took huge breaks in the middle of seasons, which I get.
If we're on episode 32 of our show right now,
yeah,
that's like saying that you would watch Fractures, you could then listen to all of ScapeChatz as it's released week to week, and then I-Yensch, You-Yensch airs.
Yeah. Approximately.
Wow.
We start with episode. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. It's wild.
That's wild.
Like, how different are we in these 9 months? It's just, I don't know. I guess sci-fi does that kind of stuff. They just like, we'll take a show off the air for a while. It's like a mid-season break, but this is like an end-season break. Like, there's 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
Including Yensch, but the illustrated companion quote regarding that. The episode fulfilled all the criteria Kemper had set for O'Bannon, plus one that Sci-Fi Channel added. The network told me that they were taking a break after Fractures for quite a long while, Kemper explains, so we made the end a bit of a cliffhanger. Hopefully everyone would realize that something really good was coming. Thanks, Kemper. But yeah.
There you go.
Is that the last piece of background info?
It is not.
Oh.
Hold on one second. Get ready for this. Jewel receives an eye injury during the firefight and wears an eye patch in this episode and the next. The real reason for the eye patch was that actress Tammy McIntosh had experienced a minor injury to her right eye, which temporarily prevented her from being able to wear one of the contact lenses needed for the Jewel makeup.
Okay. Again, Farscape has like weird, cool stuff that's being defined by production reasons. That's really funny to me.
Mm-hmm. This marks the first appearance of a living Hynerian other than Rygel on the series, though the remains of two appeared in Family Ties, heads of decapitated Hynerians, Crace's trophies, as well as the only on-screen appearance of a female Hynerian.
Huh.
The small pistol wielded by Orn while kidnapping Rygel is actually the laser knife from Premiere, Little Yellow Bolts of Light. She's holding it almost opposite from Crichton's grip of the same weapon.
God, I really want to rewatch Premiere someday and
right?
see if it's like, if it holds up. It's been so long. That is all the background info for this episode, folks.
Boom, boom.
I think that we should send it to our Moyabag boy and answer some questions and talk about some feedback. And then we're going to be back to discuss the episode that came after the huge break, which is I-Yensch, You-Yensch. Ba-da-ba.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Moyabag, where we respond to the questions, comments, and feedback of you, the ScapeChatz listeners. This week, it's me, Magellan, doing the Moyabag because Alan had to go Frella Griznark. I don't know. He writes his intros. I don't write mine. Anyway, we'll start, as always, on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/ScapeChatz. It's spelled just like the name of the show. So if you found the show, you can find us on Twitter. As always, we got our weekly memo from frequent commenter who said about Revenging Angel that they always forget that how much they love that one. The art department, Creature Shop, and Pyrotechnics team really outdid themselves. Goddamn. Saying to us that the fact that there didn't seem to be much of a reason for Crichton to take revenge on Darko was kind of the point of the episode, because Harvey's trying to make John suffer somewhat. Also shared some of our surprise or befuddlement at the way that the Letterman list was constructed, specifically with sex being put before Aaron multiple times, or either side of her. Omens agrees with us that I don't get how much so I read is a great line from Pilot through John's perspective. Also expresses some frustration with the writers trying to force any sort of ship, I think, between Jewel and John, because Jewel gives John a little smooch on the forehead, and Omens is looking for a Jewel-Chiana endgame, which, I think we're all thinking that would be the most entertaining thing possible. First, I love Omens in their memos quotes us and then puts a quote and then types a response to that quote. I just think that's funny. Maybe I think that's flattering. I don't know. Anyway, taking issue with us saying that Jewel left a big clump in Dargo's ship because, hey, if you have long hair, your hair might come out in clumps and you got to deal with it. Omen saying that Jewel and Chiana yelling at each other was unproductive yelling, but it was also gay. Not quite sure what you mean by that. I guess that there's some kind of tension between the two characters. Also Owen's agreed with me that the plot device of Jewel messing up, it can get old pretty quickly. Fun fact, the explosives in the cartoon sequence were called Frunium, which is Richard Manning's Twitter handle. Omen's responding to some of my translator microbe concerns by saying that it's more probable that translator microbes facilitate understanding rather than giving a direct mental dubbing of what's going on. Somebody else commented to that effect as well, saying that it doesn't really make sense that it would mentally make it seem like your language, but rather you're hearing words in their language but understanding it as your own. And we as an audience are seeing everything in English because we're watching a show in English, and that's how it works. Because there are moments in Infinite Possibilities where John is trying to teach Aaron English, but then it's like, how does that work? So there's never a perfect solution to this translator microbe stuff. And Omen says, I want a translator microbes episode like I want a really accurate period documentary. Like, quote, we're in the 1620s, let's talk about how this mundane thing worked. I can't tell if that means that you want one or not, but that sort of period documentary sounds awesome to me. And then Omens doesn't have a ton to say about the choice, except to say that it's still a favorite episode. It doesn't quite hurt like it used to. The Aaron numbness is a little hard to watch, but there was little pain because I know it inside out and upside down. So now the episode's somewhat comfortable, sad, and a little bit funny. That can still keep Owens engaged and put Owens to sleep with the drop of the hat if they close their eyes. And also saying that watching it in tandem with Revenging Angel actually kind of highlights some of the things about it that are maybe a bit funnier, that's a pretty interesting insight, that maybe the choice of watching two episodes at once is affecting how we're reading the episodes with each other. That's definitely true, I think. And then last couple things Owen says here is that they really love that it's not a self-acknowledgingly funny episode, that this is Aaron we're talking about here. Quote, soldiers don't have a sense of humor, John, which I guess is a line that I've forgotten, but that Aaron said at some point. And then also says, Omens also says that Aaron is so numbed, doesn't care that the alien's not her dad. She doesn't care she's being fooled. She's so drunk she's almost sober, and she just does not give a rat's ass. So there you go, that's the choice. Other things that we received on Twitter. We received a message from Angela Scrangela.
My name is Angela, hey, hello!
Showing us a tweet of Anthony Simcoe's, saying this is what Anthony Simcoe is up to nowadays. And it's actually, I did some exploration, and it's kind of very saddening. First of all, his picture on Twitter is just like the most grim, bearded thing I've ever seen. His Twitter bio is leadership and communication skills facilitator, bid coach and former actor, parentheses, e.g. The Castle and Farscape, doctoral candidate researching storytelling and leadership. And it looks like he runs a consulting firm for companies where he like goes into businesses and teaches them how to pitch and leadership skills and presentational skills, presence, that sort of thing. So let's get Anthony Simcoe back into the game. Give him some fun stuff to do, you know? So that is Twitter. Again, you can find us on Twitter at ScapeChatz. You can also find us at our weekly Reddit threads, which are at www.reddit.com/r/Farscape. And our buddy over there, frequent commenter Blue Blaze Spear, is at it again. Blue Blaze Spear says that they like Revenging Angel quite a bit, but they just don't like the episode's placement in the order. I guess it's supposed to be a lighthearted breather episode, but for me, it comes more across as a momentum killer, where it's at in the order. I think Magellan rightly pointed out, that it doesn't really work because of the nature of the two crews. Crichton may be having wacky cartoon adventures, but that doesn't change the position that Talon's crew is in, which is a dark one. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It kind of works to the detriment of the tone of both. Because there's a way in which you can balance the darkness and the levity, but there's also a point where they begin to detract from one another. And I think that speaks to what Omens was just saying about how watching Revenging Angel with the choice changes our reading of the choice, because it then makes us look at the choice more critically and makes us not necessarily take it quite as seriously as it would want us to because of the proximity of those episodes. But these are concerns that maybe would be alleviated somewhat if you were watching the episodes week to week instead of pairing them two at a time. I don't know. It's something to think about what is the best way to watch serial television. You know, is it best to chunk it? Is it best to watch it week to week? Is it best to binge it? What is the most productive and effective method of consumption, I suppose? Blue Blaze Spear also says one of the upsides of this episode is that it's one of the last times where we see John and Dargo at odds with each other, and they start to become, or return to becoming is that right? Return to becoming? They return to being the bros that we want them to be. The cool bros. Jargo, Don. One of those is their couple name. You get to pick. Janargo. Duh. Blue Blaze Spear is again talking about the same thing that Omens brought up about Talon John teaching Eren English, saying that that must mean that as viewers we're hearing everything in English as a shorthand, but that what's really happening is that the crew is hearing things in an alien language and they can still understand them in their own language, which I think that's the thing that makes the most sense. And that probably solves a lot of my translator microbe issues, but I think there are still some problems that remain. Blue Blaze Spear talking about other shows, other science fiction television shows. Babylon 5, there's a lot of love out there for Babylon 5, so it might be something we look into in the future. Also notes that they were active on the Farscape message board back in the day, and there was a pretty popular member who went by Air and Sun, like In and Out, but Air and Sun, which he doesn't, or they don't necessarily recall anybody postulating that it implied that Eren was John's, quote, heir and son, but they do remember it being a name quirk that was talked about. So that's kind of a cool thing. Probably a coincidence, but still pretty cool. Now onto the choice. Blue Blaze Spear says that they get why the choice had to happen. Not only did it close the book on the Talon story, but it also, you couldn't dump Eren back onto Moya with all this grief without addressing it somehow. Blue Blaze Spear saying, but I think I covered that last week by saying it was a nice looking episode that would have been perfect if it were 15 minutes long. Yeah, that's probably true. And that's probably also true of the next episode that we're talking about in this episode of ScapeChatz. I think it's another one that would have benefited from being like 10, 15 minutes long. Blue Blaze Spear says, I'm totally with Alan regarding Croesus. The second I saw him, I thought they surgically removed Quado. I think that's the memory, Total Recall, right? I think that's a Total Recall thing. Whatever. I haven't seen it. A comment here about the Stargate SG-1 episode 200, where they imagine a Farscape version of the show. Mostly because Ben Browder and Claudia Black were both on SG-1 at that point. We'll probably watch that episode. I'm guessing once we finish the show, we'll watch Peacekeeper Wars. Then we'll watch any properties that we can find out there that are kind of playing on Farscape, either directly or indirectly. So that episode of SG-1 for sure. That episode of Rick and Morty where Virginia Hay and Claudia Black are doing voices, perhaps we'll watch. There might be some Futuramas in there that make sense, especially because the crew compositions line up quite a bit. We'll figure it out. But we'll have sort of an in-between area where we're kind of watching and doing smaller ScapeChatz episodes while we're gearing up for whatever our next show is. And then Blue Blaze Spear saying that we're really starting to hit the ground running with Fractures and I-Yensch, You-Yensch. So that's fantastic. Again, if you want to find us on Reddit and comment on Reddit, you can go there every week where we post threads for our episodes. Reddit.com/r/Farscape. And finally, you can email us if that's something you would like to do. We're in talks with some folks now if they would like to guest host for an episode. That is still something that's open to everyone. We just ask that you send us some kind of a sample of your recording setup. Just record yourself talking for a minute or two, just so we can kind of get a sense for your mic quality, what your voice sounds like, kind of the way that all works. And odds are, if you have a decent mic, we would love to have you, because we love bringing in people with different opinions. I think this is a show that really benefits from kind of the more minds, the better. In terms of emails, we got an email from Brian saying, recently discovered the podcast, currently on episode 9, looking forward to catching up. Cheers, Brian. Hey, cheers to you, Brian. When you get here, let us know, because, I don't know, just cuz. We also got an email from Jim, who is saying that a friend recently suggested to him that he try watching Farscape. and not sure what he was doing back when the show aired, but never even saw a snippet of it before. Was shocked that it had puppets. Yeah, me too. Some further love here for Babylon 5 from Jim, and some further do not watch Lost in Space. So there we go. I don't think we'll necessarily do a sci-fi show next. I don't remember when the Babylon 5 mention came up because I haven't re-listened to last week's episode. If it was during the Moyabag and Alan was bringing it up in the context of our next show, then what I'm saying is we probably won't watch a sci-fi show next. If he was just saying it casually, like, should we watch Babylon 5? Then maybe we'll do it in our free time. But anyway, don't mean to talk too much about what's coming next just because we still have plenty of Farscape to chew through, but it's something that I've kind of been thinking about and getting excited about. So always welcoming suggestions in that realm. Anyway, as always, you can email us at scapechatz@gmail.com. That's it for the Moyabag this week. Now I'm going to turn it back over to those recording boys for their thoughts on I-Yensch, You-Yensch.
And we're back. We also watched I-Yensch, You-Yensch this week, which was written by Matt Ford, directed by Peter Androukidis, and it aired April 5th, 2002 in the US. Huge break,
Whoa.
like we said. Wacky. This episode didn't feel like it was a sequel to the last episode at all. It seemed like hold on a second, we have another thing we need to deal with on the way there. Because it is important that we see, like, it's a necessary episode, similar to how The Choice was a necessary episode for Aaron. This was very important for us to know the circumstances of how they're getting onto the command carrier. Because it involves Rygel striking up a deal with Scorpius in the A plot, while the B plot involves Talon's deconstruction, literally, and resurrection as Neo-Talon, as I start to call him in the future. So again, a big tonal difference between the two, because the Yensch plot with Rygel and Dargo and Crichton and all of them on the restaurant planet was really cool and reminded me a lot. It was really
restaurant planet.
Yeah, it's just the part of Coruscant in episode 2 where they're talking to Dexter.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it reminded me of for some reason.
What does he sound like? Because I want to do Jabba the Hutt as his voice.
Oh, Misataka Tuka Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's pretty racist.
That's like Sabol. Yeah, that's actually Star Wars racist. I'm pretty sure we're just Star Wars racist. It reminded me of that kind of thing. Like sci-fi diners are always cool.
Yeah.
And I loved the choice to focus partly on the people that ran it, like the two cooks, because
too many cooks.
Wow, relevant, dude. Very relevant.
Thank you.
Like, these are the jokes, people. Yeah, when I saw them at first, I was like, wow, I really hope they focus on them. And then they did. And I'm like, wow, rock on, Farscape. Reminding us that the side characters on the show are just as important. And the bit players can sometimes have a big role to play.
Yeah, totally.
And that stuff also totally reminded me a lot of, like, From Dusk Till Dawn, or like a Robert Rodriguez kind of film. Just in the way that it was like, or a Tarantino, I guess, is the more, more people have seen Tarantino movies. But just like, it's a bunch of people in a room talking, and then action happens. And like, tragic circumstances occur, and people have to deal with the circumstances. Whereas I felt like the B plot was just like really, it was a lot of like heavy philosophical debating of like, hey, if we kill Talon, is he dead? Or is he going to come back as the same Talon? And like that whole power play going on.
Right.
What did you think of Yensch?
I didn't get why it was necessary, you know?
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed watching both of these episodes. But yeah, it just seemed like kind of a way to get, it seemed like the B of the ABC, you know? Like we got to get from A to C, and we got to go through B, but I'd rather we just jumped. Just because of the way that the last episode ended got me so excited to jump into like the mission. This is what we're doing. But instead, we have this diner episode that kind of works at first, and it would have been a great scene, and then we get stuck in this diner, in a way that I don't love.
Yeah, it goes a little long. I feel like it didn't need a whole episode for this diner plot, but that length, in my opinion, gives it this sort of like drawn out tension, because it really should be as simple as like, hey, here are these bracelets, here's how they work, if you wear these then we'll let you get on the ship, shake hands, we're done. And so it's the introduction of the two robbers that makes it a episode plot instead of a like scene.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that Rygel and Dargo, does John go with them, or is that's not true? John doesn't go with them.
No, he doesn't. They talk about John.
Yeah, he's on command, which means, oh yeah, he's like on, he's on Moya/Talon, whatever. And so Rygel and Dargo are on this ship, and they're making a deal, or on this planet, and they're making a deal with Scorpius and Braca, who also comes on. And the idea is like, hey, if you give us, like, what do we have to do for you to let us get onto the command carrier? Is that right?
Yeah.
And he says, you guys can get on this, but one of you has to wear this thing called the I-Yensch bracelet, which is a bracelet that you put on your wrist, and it's like super cool and big metal and red and whatever. And then it's also going to go on one of my men, so that we basically have this like stalemate of like neither of us is going to hurt the other one because we're going to lose someone really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the conditions. And then right when Rygel's about to pretty much accept that with some caveats, again, like I said, these two dudes come onto the ship, or the planet. I keep calling it a ship. It's not a ship. They're called Sko and Wa. Sko and Wa are two blue weird aliens, and they're a bunch of crooks. And they're very much like Tarantino villains, or actually like Coen Brothers villains. That's actually a much better way to describe them, because like they have agency here in that they stop the plans and like actually have weapons, and they could kill people, and they do kill people, but they don't know what they're doing. Like they're just like, ugh, I know I want money and I know I want to rob this place, but I don't know what these people are all smarter than me. Damn it.
Yeah.
Like, how do I'm confused and I don't know what to do. So just like watching these two incompetent dum-dums was really fun for me, but it was like, again, this is not the episode I wanted after that last one. Gosh damn. We're at the weird space diner, and so people also mentioned to us that this was going to be a fun episode for Braca. I missed Braca. He's so cute, and he gets to be funny in this episode, and he gets to be, David Franklin is the actor, gets to do a lot of good acting in regards to like being kind of like I-Yensch attached to Dargo, because those two characters are very different. Like, you know, they're both the second-hand man to our main boys, but like Dargo is very tough and Braca is very like subservient. So that was like a really great combo to see having to work together. And then again, paralleling like that kind of like Tarantino vibe, they're all against each other until they have a common enemy, at which point they are all buds. Yay, friends.
Woo.
There was a scene early on actually where Dargo and Rygel got onto that planet, and Scorpius was like, hey, look, I have all these men. And Dargo's like, oh, that's cool. And he just like slowly proceeds to elbow all of them and knock them the fuck out. Like, he's like walking up to Scorpius like, this guy, dead. This guy, knocked out. This guy, also knocked out. And Scorpius is like, that's fine. I expected you to do that. Like, Scorpius, again, just has all of the chess pieces lined up for himself here.
Right.
And he feels in control in a lot of ways. And gets one of the best Scorpius moments towards the end. When he jumps over a table, but that's for later. And so there's also the introduction of the cook duo, the cook and his partner, whose names are Voody and Esk. So many fucking good names. Esk is like a pretty lady with a blonde streak and like really cool cat eyes, and then Voody is like someone's dad who's halfway through a midlife crisis, like trying to like rock the rock and roll hair and the tattoos. They're both Sebastians, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Or at least Voody definitely is, and then Esk might be like Sebastianoid. She's human-esque, that's the point. And they're great, because they're introduced, and you're like, oh, the cook is in the background, like, wouldn't that be great if they did stuff? And then you learn that they have a relationship, and they own this diner, and it's one of the best diners. It makes some of the best food for Hungarians and stuff, and it's known all over the world for its food. So they clearly have that over a lot of people. Like, they're clearly significant. And then we learn that they're together and they were on this restaurant place. And then we find out later that the whole reason that the robbers came onto the ship is because Voody hired them to destroy the ship or the planet. It is a ship. Yeah, it's a ship.
Something like that. To set I remember arson being a part of what's going on.
Yeah. So that's what I thought was interesting about his whole thing with Voody and Esk is, like, he hired the aliens. Then it is a ship because they're burning a single thing down. Burning it down for insurance money. And I really like the idea that there's still insurance and insurance fraud in
space,
the in the outer territories or whatever. Just like, wow, they never got past that. They never like learned, like, oh, insurance is kind of a dumb idea fundamentally that only exists out of necessity. That's fine. So that was funny to me. And then, what did you think of the cooks? I guess.
I thought they were. I think all the side characters, the cooks and the robbers.
Yep.
I liked their positioning in the story, I guess, or like the way that they were portrayed, because it did feel reminiscent, like you were saying, of Tarantino or Cohen or that sort of thing. But I just kept thinking, like, why do I care? You know?
Right.
Because with the bonus characters that we got last episode, there was a sense, like each of them was paired with another character as a way of kind of elaborating on the character they were paired with or their race. Yeah. But these characters just kind of felt like stock people in this kind of story. They didn't feel like they were adding anything, but they felt right in the story that was there, but they didn't feel like they were adding anything to the Farscape outside of this episode. Right.
And if anything, all of those characters are like incompetent in a way that more than anything just serves to remind us that Rygel and Scorpius are really smart and they make for a good pairing because they handle that situation brilliantly. From the way that they like they talk off the robbers from killing anyone, to the whole water thing where I think Braca was like knocked out and they're like, oh, he needs water because Sebastians have like a water thing they need to like refresh every once in a while, and just like manipulating the situation to the like classic way that you take out these types of people is to make them feel like they're in control. And then every couple of seconds it'll cut back to Rygel like whispering to someone, and it's like, wow, they didn't even think there's like 4 people in this diner, but you can still get out of the way and whisper to someone and they won't notice you. Right. It's really easy to trick these guys, which made them feel really stupid. But then also I just really like seeing, I didn't realize how much I liked Scorpius and Rygel as a pairing until this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's got a lot of Matt Ford like weirdness too, in the way that the 2 robbers are like comically inept, Sko and Wah, but I love those names. And they have these like comically large assault rifles, which is another cool like Farscape-y thing. I'm trying to remember some specific lines though. It's just there's like so much talking in this episode. It's hard to pick anything particular out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that I have a ton to say about this episode, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah, just because it's just what it is, you know?
Yeah, it's straightforward also. I mean, it's just like, the A-plot is a slow, but it gets there way for Rygel and Scorpius to take down the 2 robbers, and then at the end they come to the agreement. They don't come to the agreement regarding the bracelets. Mm-hmm. Because all of that, there's all of that robber stuff, and at the end they're like, Rygel goes, okay, here's the new plan. We'll do the bracelets if you let us program them. Mm-hmm. So that we like you can't rig the game. And then Scorpius is like, nope, doesn't work. And they're like, all right, fuck you, no plan. You're like, is that why did we do any of this? It's disappointing. I think that's how it ends, or at least ends like that plot. And then also, one of the guy, Voody or whatever, Voody, thank you, self and internet, dies. He goes out in the stupidest blaze of glory ever. Where he's just like, go away, I hate you, go away. And they're like, be careful what you're saying, buddy. And he's like, no, go away. And then they just shoot him. Mm-hmm. He's dead. They're like, oh, sorry, Voody. Now Esk is going to keep making that same pie over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then he says, burn this place. I had to turn the subtitles on for this because his death scene was like mixed terribly. But he says like, burn this place down in honor of me or something.
Right. Yeah.
Which I always find it weird when characters that are on their deathbed tell other people how to worship them or how to like respect their memory. It's like, hey, here's the thing you have to do. Like, go avenge me, Batman, that kind of thing. It's like silly to me because I don't know if I would think about that stuff when I'm on my deathbed. Like, hey, don't forget to kill my enemies.
This hurts.
Yeah, right, exactly. They have like it's the Assassin's Creed thing where you kill someone in an Assassin's Creed game, and they're on the like 1 second away from death, and then the game freezes, and it's a conversation between them and the killer being like, "Hey, here was my plan. Here's how you effed it up, and here's why you're the real bad guy. Anyways, bye." And then they die. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then, yeah, the two aliens I think they just get killed. I think Rygel and Scorpius just own them real hard. And they play with the I-Yensch bracelets, which, again, are basically just like the two people wearing them feel everything the same. So there's lots of like good physical comedy where Dargo's like banging his head against the floor after he's given Braca's bracelet to one of the aliens. And the guy's like, head hurts, and then Dargo's like, oh, my head hurts. I have a very hard head though, so it's not that bad. It doesn't hurt me that much, but he probably cracked his skull. And you're like, oh god.
Right, yeah.
And then Braca gets shot in the leg, and it's like the grossest. They like show the whole thing. That was really gross. Almost like unnecessarily. It's just his leg is like splayed out, and there's guts everywhere. Just like aesthetically, there were some great musical cues in that whole A plot that I enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure.
But I want to real briefly touch on the B plot because I don't know, the A plot is what it is. It's fun, but the B plot is like
more to chew on in the B plot, I think.
Exactly. So the B plot basically concerns everybody on the ship is talking about how if we're going to get what is it? It's like So Talon fucks up. That's what it is. They are being targeted by peacekeepers or something, and they're like, "Oh, I need to remember the circumstances of this exact thing because it's kind of complicated." But the idea is they like need Talon to do one thing, and then instead he shoots. Like they're like, "Oh, we need you to shoot this target, like the peacekeepers or something," and then instead he shoots a medical planet, which is where the Scarran that's on their ship was going to go, Naj Grill, as well as Jewel. And then he shoots that planet, and it's 600 innocent, or 6,000, six something, innocent people are just killed instantly. 600, yeah. That's fucked.
Yeah.
It reminds us that Talon is incredibly powerful and incredibly flighty. Because, like, he fucks up like, by accident. It's just because, like, his programming is bad. And he's rebellious, and, like, he missed, like, that kind of... It's completely an accident. But it's an accident that 600 innocent people lost their lives to. So it we can talk for days about how it's great that they treat Moya like a mother and Talon like a son, like a human mother and a human son. But at the same time, they are still or especially Talon is a warship with like guns and cannons. It's like if you gave a 15-year-old a bunch of guns and you were like, "Oh, shoot that person," and they missed. Like think about how much damage they would cause. Reminding us of all of that stuff.
Right.
And then because of that accident, they say, all right, Talon doesn't get any more chances to like fuck up and then say sorry.
Yeah.
He needs to go, bye-bye. But we don't want to kill him. And so that's where the question comes from is like, we're turning him off. But when we turn him off, whatever that means, he won't be Talon anymore.
Yeah.
And like, that's interesting that we have these ships that are like living souls with like, the power to make decisions and the power to have opinions and stuff. Like when they're talking about this, Moya is like vibrating and freaking out because they're like, yeah, that's her not agreeing with us. She is as much in that conversation as anyone else is. But we also need it's like the equivalent of like kind of robot humanism stories or like a Philip K. Dick thing where it's like, oh, you can just turn him off and turn him on again because he's a computer. Like Talon, if you hit restart, he'll be good as new, but that's a person that you're turning off and on. So it reminded me of a lot of like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep or like an Ex Machina where it's like, hey, are we fucking with a real human right now or like a real mind, a real soul? or is this just a machine that we're working with?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so there's a lot of talk about that, and obviously, like, Chiana doesn't want to do it, and Aaron doesn't want to do it, but they eventually defer to, to Crace. So it's a really heartfelt moment when Crace is having to turn off Talon after everyone has agreed, like, well, I guess if it's the best thing you're going to do, and John's talking to Aaron and asks if she's okay, and Aaron says, I can finish the job, and then Crace says, yes, Talon, I promise you that I'll do everything I can, and Crichton and Aaron will as well. We're all here with you. You have not disappointed me. I don't hold you responsible. Neither does Moya. Which is like... And then at that point, he's like barely getting the words out. He says, oh, no, on the contrary, Talon, you're very brave. Which it feels like you're patting your son on the head before sending him off to his death. Like sending him off to war or something. And then Talon makes one last request, which we don't hear. And then Crace says, as you wish. So, mysteries, right? Or was that something that we figured out later?
I don't remember it being revealed, so I would imagine it's a secret between the two of them.
They have a lot of secrets now. It's that, and it's also Crace's secret that we still don't know about.
Yeah, there's something going on there. Who knows?
I wonder if that's going to be this season. Because now we got to get to the thing. We got to get to the ship, or the command carrier. Mm-hmm. So, Talon is turned off. Sad face. Everyone cries. It's actually really sad. Even if I'm sounding like I'm joking about it. Mm-hmm. And they do like turn the switches off. And then he goes, yep, he's dead. He's gone. He's all the way off. He's gone. That's the line. He doesn't say he's dead. And then they go back to the A plot. And then the B plot wraps up with them talking to... John and Aaron are talking. And she says, I have a bad feeling about the command carrier. He says, do you think we shouldn't go? She says, I don't think we have a choice. If Scorpius masters wormholes, then... He says, yeah, some things you die for. Mm-hmm. She says, I can't watch that happen again. It was perfect. We were so perfect. And you're just like him. I mean, you are him.
Yeah. And
John says, no, this is the best part. He says, no, I'm me. I was here. I missed that dance. Aaron, don't come with us. And then she says, no, we started this together, Crichton, and that's how we'll end it. And, like, that scene could have been in the last episode. Yeah,
right.
Because that's a great scene, and it made a lot of this stuff worth it. And like seeing Scorpius do a combat role was awesome, and like Rygel pulling the knife from under the pie was awesome. But I don't know, we didn't need any of that A plot. It's funsies. I had fun with it. I'm not gonna say I didn't have fun with it, but I want to get to that command carrier. I want to see that party happen already.
Yeah,
real badly.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're gonna get there next week. John, did you have any other notes about this episode that you wanted to bring up?
Not particularly. I'm ready to just charge in to the base, basically.
Basically? With that in mind, would you like to read us the background information from the Farscape Encyclopedia Project?
I sure would.
Thank you.
In what appears to be an error, Tammy McIntosh is not credited in this episode, despite Jewel appearing throughout.
That's weird. I didn't even notice.
Yeah. The incompetent robbers are an homage to the 1974 film Dog Day Afternoon, starring Al Pacino. The meeting...
I've been meaning...
Yeah, hold on. The meeting in the diner between Rygel and Scorpius is an homage to another Pacino film, 1995's Heat, in which Pacino and Robert De Niro have a low-key meeting in a diner. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I guess it's good that we can talk about both of those. I have not seen Dog Day Afternoon. I wanted to. It was on Netflix for a while, and then I did not see it. Mm-hmm. I guess that is one of the more classic, like, look at these dumb robbers. What is the Sidney Lumet movie, like the last film that he made before he died? Before the Devil Knows You're Dead?
Yeah.
That's another, like, oh god, they're so bad, but that's like the sad version of this. There's no comedy in that movie. But I have seen Heat. I actually own Heat. It's a great film. And I like that more people are paying homage to the diner scene, because I feel like video games and other action movies in general seem to think that the only good scene from Heat was the robbery scene. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh yeah, people really romanticize the fact that they boosted the level of the gunshots in that scene to like make it sound really realistic and scary, and it's like the most realistic bank robbery ever, and blah blah blah. Great, well shot, all Michael Mann, amazing director. But like that diner scene is actually a better scene because it's way more like people talking and being terrifying because it's the cop and the robber talking to each other and being like,
Right,
"Hey,
exactly.
we're on opposite sides of this. I could kill you right now, and everything would be fine." Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that stuff a lot more, and I'm glad that shows like this are pulling from that instead of just the robbery again and again.
Let's see. Background info. Ben Mendelsohn assumed that his character had a mullet haircut as a reference to a previous movie he had done entitled Mullet, but it was a coincidence.
It's the randomest trivia ever.
Peter Andrikidis was so impressed with the work of Anthony Hayes that he cast him as the second lead on his next project, Heroes Mountain.
Ooh.
Ben Browder and Claudia Black deliberately did not lock eyes until the final scene of this episode to emphasize the estrangement between the two characters.
It's sad. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you know that What's up?
No, go ahead.
Someone, I think it was Omens, was telling me that, in the last episode, when Claudia walks by Ben, I'm just going to use the actors' names, like walks by him when he says hi to her, Ben has said at like conventions before that scene felt like Claudia was it was like being mean to him intentionally, like, oh, she's not my friend anymore. And then like whenever they talk about it, she's like, no, I love you, babe. Come on. They're awesome.
That's funny. Let's see. Guy Gross scored the episode in such a way to indicate how out of control the arsonists were and that nobody could predict the ultimate outcome.
Yeah, there is a lot of subtlety to the score in this episode. It's very subdued, and then it comes in at the right times. Like it boosts when things are getting really heavy, but it's like at the same whatever couple notes that they loop throughout.
Jewel continues to wear an eye patch in this episode due to an eye injury Tammy McIntosh received in the previous episode.
I hope that's done. We're done with that, right?
Yeah, I think that's done.
Jewel with an eye patch is ridiculous. But so is this show, man. At the end of the day. You know what else is ridiculous? The fact that we're already done this week. There was nothing really in the Illustrated Companion about this episode, but it is the episode that is bookended by some beautiful color shots of the cast, which I can't show y'all at home, but just trust me, they're really beautiful. You can probably find some of these online. I do recommend people pick up the Illustrated Companions if you like this behind-the-scenes stuff. There's like a lot of great shots of Scarin designs and different costumes and puppets. But in terms of information from the text in here, it's mostly talking about how they were excited to reference different movies, and people are... Rockney's like, the set designers were getting really good at working with Rygel on this episode. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. But I think now it's time for us to head over to Planet Netflix. Here at Planet Netflix, we read the next episode. Wait, what's up, John?
No, I'm looking for the summaries.
Oh, okay. I'll let you vamp. Or I'll vamp for you. Here at Planet Netflix, we read the episode summaries that we find inscribed on this weird red planet. And then next week on ScapeChatz, we talk about those episodes. And you can listen to us talk about them.
Got him.
Yay! He got him. And I should point out, if all goes well, then next week is going to be another guest episode. Is that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for at least one of those episodes, we're going to have a guest on. Again, I don't think we should say who it is, but we're very excited to have them. And we need to record that at some point soon and watch these episodes. Because, fuck, we're going to finish Season 3 of Farscape next week. Oh my god!
We're watching 3 episodes next week. Boom, boom!
Triple, 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 triple.
We're talking Season 3, Episode 20, Into the Lion's Den, Part 1, Lambs to the Slaughter. The crew boards Scorpius... What?
That's an awesome typo, actually.
I think it's supposed to say Scorpius' command carrier.
Yes, definitely.
The crew boards Scorpius' command character, thinking Crichton is there to master wormhole technology. Aaron and Crace confront past lives. The crew encounters hostility.
Oh god, the crew encounters hostilities every episode, though.
It sure is. Then episode 21, Into the Lion's Den, Part 2, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. Crichton is making breakthroughs in his wormhole research. His crewmates are not so sure about its success and are debating whether to leave or stay. Then episode 22, Yawn. Hold on.
You want to try that again?
Then, episode 22, Dog with Two Bones. Moya transports the remains of Talon to a sacred Leviathan burial ground. Crichton. Moya transports the remains of Talon to a sacred Leviathan burial ground. So Talon dies, I guess. Crichton dreams of returning to Earth with Eren, but Eren is unsure.
Oh. I think either... Because Talon got turned back on, but I don't know if they're like... I don't know. Maybe they're talking about like the current Talon is dead and they're going to bury the... I don't know. Or maybe Talon dies. Maybe we just read a big spoiler.
We read a big spoiler.
Yeah, whoopsie. Thanks, Netflix.
Woo.
And thank you for listening to ScapeChatz. This was episode 32. It's time for some housekeeping. Let's clean the house. How do we do housekeeping? Oh, yeah. You can email us questions, comments, and feedback at scapechatz@gmail.com, spelled like the show. You can comment on our weekly Reddit threads over at reddit.com/r/Farscape, where we have a wonderful community of people who answer and respond to all sorts of fun stuff because they've all seen the whole show, and they're very nice and wonderful. We have a Tumblr, scapechatz.tumblr.com, where we post the episodes and do an ask box. We have a Twitter at ScapeChatz where you can message me and Magellan and talk about the show in 140 characters or less. And if you want to follow us personally, I can be found at twitter.com/Alan Ibrahim, spelled ALLENIBRAHIM. Magellan?
You can find me on Twitter at Just a Fluke. That's JUSTAPFLUKE.
And that's going to do it for ScapeChatz, folks. Thank you again for listening. And let's get the Frel out of here. Starting the episode in 3, 2, 1. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, folks? No.
Hi there.
How you doing? I guess I'm going to take out hello from the beginning of my intro because that'll never work.
What do you usually say?
I usually say welcome.
Oh, you can say hello and welcome.
Yeah, I could say that, but it won't
Just
work.
don't say it like Ross Geller this time.
Don't say anything like Ross Geller if you can avoid it.